That activity that you have all just done is one of my favourites, where somebody has a picture and describes it, and the rest of you draw it. And the reason it's my favourite is I think it's a perfect metaphor for the relationship between the teacher and the learner. Generally, the teacher has a concept they're trying to explain, and the learner is trying to absorb the concept. And concepts are more than a series of knowledge. They're a whole picture. And in drawing the picture in this particular activity, you are able to see the extent to which the person who's doing the drawing has really understood the concept. And in this process, they always reveal certain changes that they have made which better suit their understanding of what you're saying. All learning is a process of translation. Somebody says something and you translate it back to yourself, and what you have created is what you remember. And I want to give you a few examples of this activity which I've done with other people, which illustrate this particular point and the changes which take place when people try and translate what the teacher is saying back to themselves to create the concept that they will remember. So in this example, you've got the original image and you've got the one that was drawn. And what you can see in the original is the dominant image is of this man, this big man, right in the center of the picture. But in the drawing that the person did, the man has become very small and is down in the corner of a picture. And what this illustrates very clearly is that when you as a teacher explain a complex concept to your pupils with different elements, the pupils may get the different elements, but they will very often decide which are the most important of those elements. And this person decided that this was not a very important element in the picture and made it much smaller. And this is happening in the minds of your pupils all the time whilst you're talking. Here's another example. This is the original picture and this is the drawing that was made. And the first thing that you notice is the drawing is actually 180 degrees the wrong way round. But much more important here is in the original, the top of the man's head is not visible. But in the drawing, the top of the head is visible, and now the man has a hat. Where did the hat come from? The person describing this never said hat, but the person drawing it thought, well, this man doing this kind of work is bound to have a hat on, so added the hat. And this is going on in the minds of your pupils all the time that you're talking. They are listening to your description and they are adding elements in which they think are appropriate in order to make sense of everything that you said. Here's another one. In the original, you will see that it's a market scene, and this is a big mess going on here. And it's very complicated to describe. But when the person draws it, they've tidied it up. It has become very neat and organized. And this again is typical of what is going on in a pupil's mind as they listen to you. They are trying to organize what you say into a logical and simple pattern. And when they do it very carefully, they often then completely distort what the original concept was trying to say. And this kind of layering of a structure underneath what you say in order to have a framework in which they can put the information that you are giving them is a basic mental process that is going on. And sometimes you might explain something and then ask a child a question to see if they've understood, and sometimes that child or pupil will give you completely the wrong answer. The temptation as a teacher is to feel frustrated and say, you clearly weren't listening to what I was saying. Go back to your seat. But in fact, often the answer that pupil is giving you is logical to them because the structure that they have created underneath it is the one that produces that answer. And what you should say to that child is, why do you think that? They will then explain, and you'll be able to understand where in their structure they've gone wrong and fix it. And the next time, they will get it right. Over here is another example of adding. Here is a fireplace with a little fire going, and this is being described to the person drawing. And when they hear fireplace in a room, they think fireplace, and they create this whole big structure up here, because that is what they understand and see in their mind when you say fireplace. Here you have 3 European boys playing the trumpet. And this activity I did with some teachers in Taiwan. And they drew this, which turns out to be 3 Chinese boys playing a traditional Chinese wind instrument. So they have taken the key words from the explanation and transformed it into their cultural context. And it's very important to understand that this is happening in the minds of your pupils, particularly when you're working with pupils of different cultural backgrounds who may not be in the Thai mainstream. And therefore, the words that you're using to describe a concept may mean something different to them. When this person said boy, they thought Chinese boy. When this person described a trumpet, they thought Chinese wind instrument. And that translation is going on inside the mind of your pupils whilst they're learning. And this final example is of an island which many of us might recognize as being a kind of surreal New York. These are the Empire State Building, the Chrysler Building, and so forth, if you know New York. But I was doing this activity with some teachers in Qatar, in the Middle East, Arabic teachers. And when they drew that, they turned it into this, because this is their idea of an urban landscape. And when it says trees, they do palm trees, and they've put dates and coconuts on the palm trees, which weren't originally there. When they're talking about these fish that are described here, they see dolphins because those are the fish that they see. And their urban landscape is a much lower landscape than you would get there. And then we took this drawing and we gave it to another person to describe to another teacher. And when they did that, they got this. And what you see here is that this has turned into the mosque. And these trees are even more like palm trees now, and this has become a complete Arabic cultural image, very far removed from the original American image that it started with. But it shows you very clearly how the cultural context into which the information you are giving is being translated and absorbed in the meaning of what you say.